Hello and welcome to Skerries Rowing Club's Boathouse Planning Application. My name is Andrew O'Byrne. I'm the Public Relations Officer at Skerries Rowing Club. Today, I would like to present to you some information about Skerries Rowing Club and most importantly, information around our recent planning application for a boathouse at Skerries Harbour. In terms of an agenda, it's really to go over some of the club's background to give you a feel for the club, who we are, our achievements, the community activity, our vision for the next 5 to 10 years, why we need a boathouse, the feasibility study, the boathouse design that includes some architectural drawings and images, and some top Q&As that we've received over the last number of days. In terms of a background to our club, we were established in 2012 with just 6 members of one skiff. In 2020, we now have over 120 members, 5 boats, 3 launching trailers, 2 road trailers, and training equipment. And our HQ is currently to the left of Storm in a Teacup, as you can see from that image at the top right-hand side. We currently rent space from Skerries Sailing Club that permits 2 of our skiff boats to reside there. We also have a number of juvenile teams, and again, that section of the club continues to grow year on year. Generally, we're very much a community-based club, and our age range is literally between 10 and 70. It's both a leisure and competitive side to the club, and as you can see there from the image at the bottom, that's a selection of our skiffs there on Skerries Beach. Our club achievements have been really gathered over the last number of years and have been very much a proud part of our achievements. So we currently partake in East Coast regattas year on year, and that goes from Skerries straight through Arklow. Some of these images, as you'll see there, will be of various teams winning numerous medals at these events. And we've also partaken in the National Rowing Championships and brought home silver medals proudly on behalf of Skerries. And we've partaken in the Great River Race in London a number of times. And again, I think there's an image up at the top right hand you can see there on the Thames. And then also the Ocean to City in Cork and the Paris Cross City Race. I actually think that Skerries Rowing Club was the only East Coast club to ever partake in that Paris race as well. So again, really a proud moment for the club. In terms of community activity, we're very much active in terms of our fundraising and interaction with the community. And that probably lends itself to a wide variety of ages, as I said, between 10 and 70 years old. So a real mix of different ages. From some of the images you can see here, St. Patrick's Day, we took part in the parade. We also run some fun runs to raise funds for the club. And then also we have a good relationship with the fishermen there in Skerries Harbour that also are part of our setup when we do a Skerries regatta each year. And we've had a number of different fundraising opportunities throughout the last number of years, from bake sales, quizzes and whatnot. And then also during the year, you'll see various club events that will be held in the beach with members and their families to enjoy Skerries Rowing Club in the beach itself. Down here, you can see an image that we had one, I suppose like many clubs, struggled to keep in contact with members during the COVID period. So we had some good events on Zoom, so quizzes and whatnot. So again, kept everybody in contact. But overall, we're very much an active part of the community and partake in all these various different events throughout the course of the year. So the vision for our club is something that's really important to us, and I suppose leads us to where we are today with the application for the boathouse. Our vision for Skerries Rowing Club is to be a leading national rowing club and remain at the heart of a very proud community. So as you can see over there on the right-hand side, we've actually just put in a picture that's just 100 years old actually this year. So in 1920, there was actually a regatta in Skerries Harbour, and this would have been the centenary of that event. So very much you can see that rowing is very much a part of the history in Skerries Harbour and Skerries itself. And that's something that we want to build on as we move towards the idea of a new boathouse to really bring on the club and bring on the sport of rowing in Skerries. So we really envisage the growing of the traditional skiff rowing sport as an important part of our maritime heritage. So it's very much a part of Skerries. And that kind of leads in, I suppose, to some of the snapshots there. I have the Skibbereen, where the beating heart of the town is the boathouse. So I suppose for a lot of people, you'd be familiar with the O'Donovan brothers, who really made rowing a very popular and I suppose very much widely seen as a very celebrated sport in Skibbereen for what they brought to it. So huge successes there. And again, for something like Rowan to be brought to such a success in that town, that's what we'd love to see happen in Skerries. So, we have this fantastic harbour, we have a lot of interest in the Rowing Club, and to grow into something like that where it really is an even bigger part of the town and something to make the town very proud. I mean, even if where we are at the moment, we've actually a new FISA boat this year. And as you know, Coastal Rowing is going to be part of the 2024 Olympic sports. So very much an exciting part and an addition to the Skerries Rowing Club fleet. So it's going to bring on huge opportunities to help grow the club. Also, we want to grow our juvenile base to compete in national and international standards. And that goes hand in hand with the opportunities of the FISA boat and growing our skiff boats. So really for the next 5 to 10 years, that's what we want to do. We want to grow this club into something that the town's going to be very, very proud of. And we believe it's a really important part of the community. So it brings fantastic things in terms of, um, improving people's mental health, giving that opportunity to be out there in the water and supporting young people. And also goes hand in hand with, I suppose, what happens in Skerries and it being in a harbour area and part of the harbour buildings and what's offered in terms of maritime activities. So we very much want to build on what we have and this fantastic club that's growing and growing year on year and really take it to the next level. And that's really where the Boathouse comes into play. This is going to be necessary for us to be able to evolve, support the people who are interested in rowing and take us to the next level. So you can see from the bottom image, there's the first image that you'll see in this presentation for the new boathouse and what that would mean for the club to evolve and the kind of facilities that would look there. So the reasons why we need a boathouse. So we have 5 boats and equipment, and to grow, we're going to need even more. So as I mentioned earlier on, we've got 2 that currently reside in Skerries Sailing Club, and we're going to need more boats down to be able to give those opportunities to the people who would like to row and be part of the rowing club. At the moment, there's a growing waiting list, and at present, we can't expand membership as we're unable to get all our boats into the water. So the reason that we only have 2 boats in the sailing club is because they're at capacity. So even for their own members' boats to be there, our boats are quite large, so between 8 and 11 meters long, and they also have to be inside for the winter for storage and maintenance and so on. So they do take up a considerable amount of room, but that's a real challenge for us at the moment. Having only 2 places in the sailing club yard really prohibits us from growing, evolving, and getting more members into the club. We also need a boathouse near the slipway to store our boats, equipment, to provide some basic facilities to grow this unique community club into the local amenity that it can be. So really to have that space to house all this quite large equipment and create that space to evolve the club and bring it forward. In order to do that, the boathouse, I suppose, came to light and evolved. And our idea was, how do we get there? So what do we need to do to have a place to create a boathouse, and how does that actually happen? And what I'm going to take you through in the next couple of slides is how we came to that, through that journey, to the point where we have a feasibility study on 2 sites, which you'll see just lightly indicated there under site A and site B. So our journey to move towards a boathouse started over 5 years ago. And really what this slide represents is what happened at a very high level over those number of years that really laid us down to looking at 2 particular sites and the feasibility to have a boathouse on them. So at the beginning of this was really, I suppose, engaging with the Skerries Monitoring Committee and FLAG, so the Fishermen Local Action Group, to understand what kind of approach we could have to move towards getting a boathouse established in Skerries. So based on their advice and further research, that led us to a feasibility study. That's what is required to move this forward and really get to the point where we can have planning permission on a particular site for a boathouse. So as part of that feasibility study, there were 2 sites that came under that. So site A and B, which you can see down there. So there's a map view and an actual photographic view on both sites. So site A is located just behind Stormony Teacup, and site B is located just between the Ornalai and the Memorial Pole. So these 2 sites were assessed under an independent survey to attain their suitability for a boathouse. Past that, we've been engaging with Fingal County Council, the Ornalai, Skerries Tidy Towns, Skerries Chamber of Commerce, and Skerries Community Association for their views and advice to move forward and to really find something suitable and agreeable in terms of what will be right for the harbour. So obviously it's really important to us to have a boathouse that really suits and fits in with that particular area. At that point, that leads us to where we are today, where we currently have a planning application in on site B, for a clubhouse, or sorry, a boathouse for a Skerries Rowing Club. The independent feasibility survey basically had the conclusion that site A was unsuitable and site B was actually appropriate. So if you remember, site A is actually beside Stormont Teacup, and the reason that that's unsuitable is because it's on low ground, so there's a flood risk. The green belt zoning, so it doesn't actually allow for community building to be built there. It's too small. So again, these boats are 8 to 11 meters in length, so quite large. And the pier itself is also a protected structure, so there is a conservation issue there as well. Site B is on higher ground. It's open space zoning, which means that it allows community building in principle, and it's also suitable in size and close to the slipway. So again, really a much more appropriate site, and has all the aspects that are required to have a boathouse of the size that we need to house these skiffs. The next couple of slides are just going to take you through some architectural drawings and some views and different aerial views to give you a feel for what the boathouse could look like and the materials that are going to be used as well. So the first slide here shows the boathouse alongside as it is nestled in between the Ornalai and the memorial pole. So as you can see here, it just presents the view taking into account the curve on the wall that we have surround the memorial pole, the open entrance that comes into the boathouse itself, and then how it's going to align alongside the Ornalai, which you can see up the top left-hand side. So again, it really is aligning to the same height and general design of the Ornalai, and really complements that as it's nestled in between the two. So a couple of important key points, I suppose, to point out of how we got to this design and what it really is incorporated to make the building what it is. So the building itself obviously is nestled right in between the Ornalai and the Sea Memorial. Really important point really is the deep respect that we have for the sea and the safety of all of those on it. Members of our club have family and friends who've lost lives at sea and honored the Sea Pole Memorial. So that's really important to us. And part of the design of the boathouse building is to be respectful towards that. So there is a low curved wall around the building to allow the community to continue to enjoy the Sea Memorial and the open area that resides around that there. So very much an openness and something to blend in with the Sea Pole Memorial. And we've liaised with the Ornalai, and we've adjusted the proposed building to be aligned to their building, but also not block their lookout view at the back. The boathouse reference, or the boathouse draws reference from the local maritime building. So basically I have some other additional images coming up that will show you older pictures from that particular area, but it's really drawn influence from the Ornalai and the old lifeboat building that's now the Lifeboat Cafe across the road. It doesn't copy them, so it just respects them and it takes influence for them. So some of the images and some of the gable A-frames that are used are very much keeping in line with that architecture style, but have something that's kind of young and vibrant to remark on a young and vibrant club, I suppose, that will be the Skerries Rowing Club. But it very much blends in with some of the architectural features that you'll see in the Ornalai and the Lifeboat Cafe. The building facing the road is designed to be open and inviting, and we'll see an image of that in a moment. So we really want to encourage community members to use it, to visit it, to see boats being maintained, and hopefully in the future you would see boats being built there. So that's also very much a possibility as well, to see boat building in action. But we really want it to be open to the community and for them to feel welcome to come inside. And that's part of the design of what's at the front of the boathouse, just alongside the Ornalai, where it's very much it's an open pathway in. So very much really, I suppose, encourage the community to be part of that particular area. So some of the exposed beams that you'll see in the design as we look through the next couple of images are really constructed like a frame of a timber skiff. So very much in that particular theme, keeping with the maritime theme and the different images of the architectural buildings that surround us. We're also going to be supplying 30 bike racks for all to use, and really encouraging members to walk and cycle. At the moment, that's something that's most of our actual members do. So there's a lot of activity through just walking and cycles to the club. These images here, I suppose, just reflect on some of the older images down by the harbour. So you can see right here at the top right-hand side, the view of what is the old Ornalai, the Lifeboat Cafe. And then you have Storm in a Teacup. And this was actually the building that used to be the Coast Guard building. So quite different to what we see today. But this area has always been a maritime area and very much keeping in theme with what's been proposed at the moment. Some of the images below give you a good feel for how this boathouse would align to the Ornalai. So over here is obviously the image without the boathouse, and then this is the image with the boathouse. So very much aligned in terms of the height of the Ornalai, and pretty much in the same direction as the length as well. And you can see just where we've adjusted at the end to a clear way there for the RNLI lookout window. So I think it really does complement that particular area, and keeps in line with the current look and feel of what's there. This other image just presents a little bit further back so you can get a good feel for how it looks at the very entrance into the boathouse. So again, all very much open, low walls with the bike racks, some seating area here. And then we have the curve on the cedar wood that's going to be used throughout these arches and around, wrapped around. So very much inviting and bringing, I suppose, people around this way into the main entrance. And also that design is very much, I suppose, a nod and respect to the memorial pole here. So the angles that have been used on the curve of the wall and the curve of the pole are very much reflective of that design and respectful of that. So this kind of gives you, I suppose, a first view of how that nestles in between the RNLI and really, I suppose, blends in with that architecture. So again, you can see the scale of the roofs and the different angles there all complementing one another. This view is the back of the boathouse. So as you can see, this is what you would view when you're looking from the sea directly in. Again, at the back here, you can see that there's much more, I suppose, harsher weather at play as well during the winter. So some of the colorings here even reflect that of you'll see of the rocks that would be, I suppose, in keeping with the landscape and really adjoining to that in terms of the style and what's suitable, and also being protective of the building. This slide here just gives you a better feel for, I suppose, the levels, the height level of that building in comparison to the RNLI, and as it rises up to the arch, bringing in there around the memorial pole. So you can see the scale and how it pretty much keeps in theme with the same height all the way through, again, just to blend in and let you see that just, I suppose, come together and very much like a uniformed approach. This aerial view gives you, I suppose, a good view of what it looks like in terms of the area here at the ground just before you go into the boathouse. So again, this is all open area. So there's some accessibility spots here, and then we have the bike racks, as I said, here. And then this clearly just shows you the nice curve that we have around the memorial. And then as it goes down the back into the entrance of what will be the entrance into the boathouse. Again, a good view of how it aligns to the RNLI station as well. The interior here really gives you a feel for the size of the boats. So as you can see, the boats are stored at the front of the boathouse. So these are all the skiffs coming along here. And then you can see one image that really represents the Fisa boat that's even longer than our traditional skiffs. I think it's about 11 meters. So that just gets overlapped here. But generally, the layout of the building inside will be for the storage area for the boats here. Over here is going to be the winter training stroke boat storage meeting room. So there's an adaptable room here for a couple of different functions. Alongside here, there's a very narrow area that incorporates a very, I suppose, basic facilities that will be for changing rooms for male and female, a plant room, and then a small reception area as well. Over here is just, again, another visual that you can really get a really good feel for how the boats will look when they go inside and the amount of room that they actually take up. So then it just shows the side view and the front on view. And again, another aerial picture that just really shows the scale of how these two parts of the building marry in together, and then the angle around the memorial pole. Again, it just calls out some of the materials used as well. So the mixture between the metal and the beams as well really just complementing those arches that we're getting from the RNLI inspiration and the old lifeboat house. Up here, a higher aerial view again, you get a better look at the RNLI and the angles on the roof compared to that of the boathouse. Again, look very similar in style and really look like they belong as that whole structure of maritime buildings there together. And we have another aerial view there, looking down just a little bit behind from where you come out from the pier. So again, you get a good view of the memorial pole and how that's nicely just framed all together between these three aspects of the whole site. And then finally, I suppose a more real looking image when you see it like this. This gives a good feel for how the building would look in normal sunlight, and gives you a good, I suppose, contrast to, you can see the materials and how they reflect in the environment that's around here. So between the Ornella and so on, and really how it blends in. So I think this one really shows out how this blends in against the Ornella, and as you go in there towards the memorial pole through the arch. And then finally, another view just standing back there from across from the harbour. So you can see the alignment of the boathouse in comparison to the arch. You can see the public toilets, the Ornella and storing the teacups. So very much keeping in theme with what's there at the moment. Doesn't look out of place, and just aligns nicely to keep in there with the current respective buildings. So for this slide, we thought it would be useful just to put together some of the top Q&As together to really call out some of the details of the main queries that might be there for discussion. So what we have here, and we might have answered some of these as we went through the presentation, but the first one is, does Skerries Rowing Club own the land? So the answer to that is no, that we have permission from Fingal County Council to apply for planning permission. If successful, we will lease the land from Fingal County Council. And this is the case with most clubs. So we will never own the land, just be leased from Fingal County Council. Will Fingal County Council be funding the build of this boathouse? So that's no. It'll be funded by Skerries Rowing Club, and it'll be through fundraising, sponsorship, and then public grants. So a combination of those things. Is there somewhere else in the harbour? So again, a question, is there anywhere else in the harbour that could house this type of boathouse? There were only two possible sites, and that was the one that we're currently discussing, and then the one behind Storm the Teacup that was unsuitable for all the reasons that we discussed before. There are no other sites on the harbour that would be able to house such a boathouse. Again, the challenge with a boathouse is that it needs to be near the water and near a slipway, and hence those two sites were explored as the best possible opportunities. Can the Sailing Club accommodate us? So unfortunately, no, the Sailing Club is a private club, and at present they're at capacity, so for themselves and their own members. And as mentioned, we just have two skiffs down there at the moment, and there is no room to bring down any of the other boats, unfortunately. And does it impede on the Sea Pole Memorial? So again, we've discussed this a little bit in previous slides. So no, we believe that the design is respectful of the memorial pole. And so it's the low curved wall behind the benches, allowing the community ample room to enjoy the space with no restrictions of views. And again, as a maritime sport, training and sea safety is paramount for us. And we've huge respect for those who've lost their lives at sea. Again, relatives and friends and many members have been honored at this memorial. So during the design process, it really was a huge emphasis to make sure that we had something respectful of this and really blend it into that particular area, and hopefully we've achieved that. So at this point, hopefully you've got some ideas around what kind of club that we are, our past, what we do, and then most importantly for the moment, just really to have a feel for the planning application. So those images on the boathouse and the design around that. So hopefully you found this session was useful. In terms of more information, as always, you can go for the full planning application documents and review those on Fingal, and I've just put the URL in there. And again, the reference number just below in red, so F20A0558. Ourselves, we'll be publishing further updates on our Facebook page and also on skerriesrowingclub.com. And then if you have any additional queries, please do contact us at secretary@skerriesrowingclub.com. Thank you so much for your time and for attending this webinar, and thank you.